Good evening, everybody. I assume you can hear me. I can use my teacher voice. I think we'll be fine. I'm Susan Martin, coordinator of candidate events for the League of Women Voters of Knoxville and Knox County. And I want to thank you all for coming to be with us this evening for this candidate forum. I'm going to be the moderator tonight for this meet and greet for the candidates for the Knox County Mayor primary election. Let me tell you, we have started live streaming, so this will be available subsequent to this event if you should choose to review it. I want to welcome everyone to this forum on behalf of the following nonpartisan organizations: League of Women Voters of Knoxville, Knox County, American Muslim Advisory Council, Knoxville Area Urban League, Knoxville Branch of the NAACP, the Knoxville News Sentinel, East Tennessee Society of Professional Journalists, the Voter Education Fund, and the YWCA of Knoxville and the Tennessee Valley. Thanks to all these organizations for their help and support. And I also want to thank David Hearns, Executive Director of Blunt Mansion, for hosting us tonight. We're very grateful for his help. I will now introduce our candidates and explain to you the format of this meet and greet event. We have, of course, invited all of the candidates who will be participating in both primary elections this spring. Those in attendance are Bob Fisher, Tyler Gibbons, Debbie Helsley. All of them will appear on the Democratic Party ballot for the primary election in May. County Mayor Glenn Jacobs is the sole candidate on the Republican ballot for the primary. Mayor Jacobs had a scheduling conflict and could not be with us tonight. We will follow the League's format for a meet and greet event. You will each have 2 minutes to make introductory remarks and then 90 seconds to respond to questions. The candidates have not seen these questions in advance. They have been generated from our membership and our partners. Please note that the timekeeper, very important person, will signal you as intervals of time elapse and alert you to stop when you are out of time. And you don't want to know what happens if you don't stop. Once the question and answer portion of this event is complete, I will invite those in attendance to engage in informal conversation with our candidates. And candidates, you may share your electoral materials, your campaign materials. After the event, we have a table in the back there. You can probably use these tables as well. This format is designed to avoid any appearance of favoritism and to further a respectful exchange of information. Should any candidate make reference to another candidate during the question and answer, that candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. And we would ask candidates to avoid direct references to any candidates in the race. We ask that the audience not express reactions to the candidates' remarks during the introduction or the question and answer period, or at any time during the program. And we ask that audience members not display campaign material of any sort. In general, we expect that all participants and audience members will act in a manner that promotes mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct. And now to begin, so we can get to our program. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to present introductory remarks. It is my task to pick the order of speakers, and so somewhat randomly, we will begin with Tyler Gibbons.
Okay. We have a microphone to pass around, or should I feel like I should stand though. All right, I'm the guinea pig here.
All right, I'll work the cord.
Okay. Does everybody hear me okay back there? All right, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, you ready? Good evening. My name is Tyler Gibbons, and I'm running for Knox County Mayor. By trade, I'm a licensed professional engineer. I've got 15 years of experience in state, local, and federal contracting. I've worked at all kinds of facilities, from elementary schools to the U.S. Capitol building. I was laid off in January of last year, and I spent my time between jobs volunteering with a local coalition that was doing some eviction defense. We were alerting people to their rights under the eviction moratorium, and I did some outreach to the homeless camps. I took food and water down there and got to know a lot of those people and helped them move their belongings when they were told to move along. And what I saw and what I heard were stories of a lot of hardworking people who've just fallen through the cracks in our social safety nets. People who lost a job or had a nasty divorce or medical issue and just couldn't get back on their feet again. I think that we can do a better job of taking care of all the citizens in Knox County. The county mayor's office has the power to set budget priorities and appoint the right leadership to county agencies that can redirect our county development funds away from luxury amenities to affordable housing, so we can really tackle the housing crisis that's hurting our county and our city. If we support our county agencies, we can get back more of our federal tax dollars, money we've already spent on programs. So I think we need to fully staff and fully support those agencies. And I think we need energetic leadership to activate disaffected voters. That's why I'm running for Knox County Mayor, because I believe that by creating sustainable communities, by empowering people to live near where they work, and by strengthening our community agencies to bring more of our own federal tax dollars back to Knox County, we can create a Knox County that's prosperous for all. Thank you.
Thank you. We will next hear from Debbie Helsley.
I'm Debbie Helsley. I'm a native South Knoxvillian, fifth generation Knox Countyan. I'm a proud product of the public school system, so I think quality public education is critical for all, everywhere. For almost 50 years, I've been involved in the labor movement. I'm a retiree of Bell South / AT&T, and if anybody here has ever worked there, they understand why there's a union there. So I've served as a VP on the Tennessee State AFL-CIO, as well as the Knoxville Oak Ridge Area Central Labor Council. Served in my neighborhood association. I was one of the founding members and the first president. I'm currently vice president because we just move around a lot. It gives everybody something to do. I think people in neighborhoods are extremely important when it comes to zoning neighborhoods, and residents should have a seat at the table, which they don't really have today. I was in the leadership Knoxville class of 2007, CAC Community Leadership 2009. And the common thread in everything I have done in my life has been kind of to give everyday people a leg up and an equal opportunity. And that's the reason I am running to be our next county mayor.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Bob Fisher.
I don't think I'm going to need this. My voice carries pretty well. My name is Bob Fisher. I'm 62 years old. I recently retired from UPS in December after 44 years of union work. I'm a 44-year union employee, Teamster, and I'm pretty proud of it, third generation. About 2 weeks after I retired, Omicron came setting in, and I saw my retirement as an endless Groundhog Day of just crossing my fingers, hoping my heart attack didn't come when our emergency rooms were shut down once again in our 3 times a year COVID shutdown. And I have been active in the COVID mitigation and said, I'm going to do something about it. When I did, I discovered that I knew actually very little about the nuts and bolts of county government. So I got the charter, looked at it, started driving around the county, looking at the issues that I had seen over the course of my career, but hadn't really focused on. So I decided to focus on them and came up with a platform, and it's basically this. I want to put up solar farms on our unused industrial parks and produce revenue instead of letting them sit there fallow and doing nothing. I want to upgrade all our HVAC systems in the schools with ESSER funds that are sitting there unused because nobody's coming up with a plan on how to spend this money. And I want to produce a real budget that recognizes the value of county employees as professionals. Not any single digit, but there's MIT, there's plenty of stuff out there that tells us exactly what the worth of these people are. and I want to pay them what they're worth, treat them fairly, and I don't see that happening in my first year. I think it's going to take me 4 years to do it. So that's my platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right at the buzzer.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to work. Like I said, it's going to take me 4 years to get the budget. It took me 2 minutes to get the plan out.
The buzzer is only the first step, so I'll say no more. We'll now begin with our first question. You'll each have 90 seconds to respond, and we'll give you a little bit of a chance to focus in on what some of you touched on in your introductory remarks, starting with Debbie. What are your priorities for Knox County?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think the biggest one is public education. It can't be said enough. I think maybe we're not going to have much say-so anymore because of Nashville, but in the meantime, we need to pay our teachers. We're losing teachers all the time to Oak Ridge, Maryville, Alcoa because they pay more money. So, infrastructure, we could use some of that too. There's dollars coming from DC, and I think, am I allowed to say the current administration, is that legal?
I think the current administration is fine.
Okay, thank you. They don't seem to be wanting to admit that there was a bipartisan infrastructure bill, so there's money coming here, and we need to use it, wisely. And I think those are probably two of the most critical things. Zoning's a big issue. Affordable housing, I think you could take there's an affordable housing unit 2 blocks from my house, actually, and everybody was up in arms when they started building it. It was going to be a terrible thing. Now that it's there, nobody cares. There's no crime. There's no more traffic. It's all good. So I think some of those affordable housing apartments could be moved across the county line out into the county, and that would be wonderful.
Thank you. Bob Fisher is next. What are your priorities for Knox County?
Well, the single biggest priority is to keep the hospitals open. We're a major we are a major medical center, and we're shutting them down 9 weeks a year. That's 2.5 months a year. I'm 62 years old. I don't want to die because my county government isn't doing their job. So that's what drew me into the race. The budget's important in the sense that nobody's really done the job of county mayor in about 25 years. And even if they don't pass the budgets as we put them out there, it's important to get them out in front of everybody. As far as the solar farms and the HVAC systems, well, they pay for themselves. The HVAC systems will raise, but from the people that have done it so far, reading scores, math scores, they reduce teacher absences, it reduces pollen, it reduces pollutants. It works. The solar farms, look, solar's coming. We need them to power our county vehicles, our county emergency vehicles. We don't need the mayor coming in going, oh my goodness, I foolishly didn't plan for a gas price increase. Hey, gas always goes up. If we own our own power, then we don't have to pay anybody else for that. And that will pay for itself.
Thank you. Tyler, your priorities.
We'll just keep this over here.
You got to keep that over there. Yeah, you'll do it.
So my number one priority for Knox County is to stabilize our rental market and improve affordable housing. We have a crisis here. Rents in Knoxville increased 30% last year. That affects the entire county. When people are driven out of the city, away from where they work frequently, now they have longer commutes. That's more stress on our infrastructure. As we build out further into the county, that's more stress on our water and sewer systems. I think the thing we need to do is change the way we develop. Instead of letting developers build whatever they want, we need to use our incentives as carrots and sticks to get our developers to build the kind of developments that we need. Other cities, San Jose, Chicago, tons of cities in Europe are building beautiful, medium-density, affordable, or public housing that has mixed-in retail, that's walkable, that's bikeable. We can do that here. We have the money. We have the pilot programs. We're already spending that money. We should be spending it on something that gives back to the community. If the developers want something from the taxpayers in Knox County, they need to give a tangible, guaranteed benefit back, whether that be affordable housing, low-income housing, or guaranteed wages for their workers. Thank you. Oh, I do also agree that our school teachers definitely need to be paid more. And as an engineer, I actually work in our elementary schools in various schools in Tennessee, and I also agree that we have a lot of HVAC improvements to do for our students' health. So I appreciate both of y'all bringing up those issues.
Thank you. Okay, on to our next question. In 2000, Knox County's population was 382,000 people. It's now nearly 500,000 and shows no signs of slowing. As mayor for the next 4 years, how would you deal with greater density and more demand on public infrastructure and services? And for this round, we'll start with Bob Fisher.
Boy, you got me on that one. Well, the density, I was at a real estate and developers meeting not too long ago, and they kept screaming inventory. But as I've been driving the roads, we don't have, especially out in a deep county, the infrastructure necessary to necessarily support a 200 extra thing. Anyway, my point is somebody's going to have to tell the developers, look, this is what it's going to cost for the improvements, the infrastructure improvements for this development. I like in-building. I like using stuff that's already there. I don't like having to rebuild a road just so you can build an apartment complex. The trade-off's going to have to be there. Developers are going to have to either back a tax increase, which is commission's job. That's not actually the mayor's job. That's not a power that the mayor has. The mayor presents the budget. And it's up to, I want to start just looking at stuff going, okay, if you want to do that, this is what it costs. How do you plan as the developer to pay for it? Because, you know, I can't be everywhere doing everything. Even in 3 months, I've only covered maybe half the county. There's a lot going on out there.
Thank you. All right, next up, Tyler, density, infrastructure, population growth.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, so in 2003, I believe it was, Knox County and Knoxville came together and created a 30-year plan, which showed where we should develop, where we should densify, what areas we ought to focus on, and we threw it out the window and didn't follow any of it, as far as I can tell. So my number one way to handle this infrastructure and this growth is to have a plan with community input, elected input, with meetings that aren't just during the day, that are also during the evening, on Saturdays. We can get third shift workers involved. Everybody deserves to have input on a plan for the community. And we need to stick with that plan that we come up with. Every week when I go to city council meetings or sit in on county commission meetings, it's just a laundry list of exemptions that developers are asking for. And we need to stop doing that, and we need to develop in a sustainable and responsible way. Now, how do we handle increased density? Well, for the first point I'd like to make is we have increased people coming into Knox County. We don't have to entice them to be here. A lot of times you hear the city and county argue that we need to entice developers or entice talent to come here. We have talent here. We need to build housing for them. That's what we need to do. So the other thing we need to do to handle this increased population, other than densify and create walkable spaces where people can live near where they work, is we need to partner with city agencies even more than we already do. That's CAC, that's KCDC, and it's KAT. I would love to see the county finally shake hands with the city and expand our CAT service out into further places. Again, that will bring more federal money into the county. So I just think at all levels, our county needs to focus more on its services, put more time there, and then, then we'll be able to handle that infrastructure, or the increased population. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Kind of talking on each other, I think, but at any rate, the county's really guilty of a lot of urban sprawl already. Mm-hmm. So I think rather than having, first of all, you can't accommodate another 200,000 or 300,000 people by putting single family dwellings out there. You're going to have to do some kind of affordable housing for workers, which is a recurrent thing here, right? That has some walkability, at least within its, the people work in their neighborhood there they all have cars. they're not walking, I mean, they're not walking to work, so I think you could use that, and maybe get rid of some urban sprawl. And I think that's probably about it as far as housing.
Thank you. All right, our next question will start with Tyler, and here it is. The bigger population that we just spoke about means more diversity in Knox County, for sure. As mayor, how will you and your staff reach out to diverse populations?
Thank you so much for this question. I love it. We currently have boards, KCDC, CAC, that do not represent their constituents. The KCDC board in particular is one that I'm a little upset with. There's only one member on that board who lives in KCDC housing, and she's probably paid $100,000 in rent the time she's lived there. She has no equity to show for it. Everyone else on that board has made hundreds of thousands of dollars of gains in the value of their home in just a couple years. That's not the kind of people we want in charge of our public housing. We need more people who live there to be involved in the decision making. And I think that goes for all of our committees, all of our, I promise that all of the heads all of the board members that I appoint will, as best as I can, represent the demographics of the communities they represent. That means more people of color, that means, more women, and people of, LGBTQ people. We need representation for them as well. So I think it's important that if we want community involvement, we give the community real positions of power and not just, token committees where they're allowed to speak a little bit, but real seats on the board where they get to really make decisions and really vote, and where we have someone who represents us who's really paying attention to the issues that come in front of these committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Once again, it feels like he spoke for everybody, right? Diversity shouldn't be a question, but I'm assuming in Knox County it really is a problem. I come out of the labor world. That is not an issue where I come from, so if the boards are lopsided, then that needs to be fixed. So I just think everybody needs to be represented. All colors, I'm tired of looking at, no offense to anybody, old white men running everything. So I think it's time, and even women are a minority when it comes to any positions of power. So let's do it. Clark.
Well, I'd probably start out with putting more people that can speak different languages, making sure our English as a second language is emphasized and funded, not only in the schools, but I'd like to take that over to community schools as well, to where as people move in, whether they be from a different nation or a state like Florida, that's a little going, what's going on here? I'd like a place for them to be able to gather and at least have people of common backgrounds that they can deal with. Once again, I think hard to argue with Tyler's ideas on diversifying our various boards. I would work with the local unions. The particular plans I have are, the HVAC and the solar canopies and the electrical charging stations out at the industrial parks. I want to see the unions in charge of them. I'd like to see an IBEW and a steelworkers annex out there. I'd like the Teamsters to be involved in the sense that we got to figure out which electric diesels, or currently they're diesels, tractor trailers. We've got to prepare for the next decades, and that preparation's not going to happen by. We've got to embrace the new rather than try to hang on to the old.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. What are your thoughts about the multi-purpose stadium planned for downtown Knoxville? And for this, we'll begin with Debbie.
Okay, that's cool. I'm good. Okay, so I think it could have been handled differently. I think the community benefits agreement would have been phenomenal. That didn't happen, so we are where we are. We're going to get a stadium, so I think at this point we just need to embrace it. It's coming. It's not just Randy Boyd's Smoky Stadium. It's going to be for our soccer team. Students can use it for events, farmers markets, and whatever else the community decides to use it for. So hopefully they will diversify the community around there like they said they would. I'm a little puzzled over how the the Urban League is going to actually train steel workers and all that, but we'll see how that happens. So I think the building trades would have been a much better way to go, because that's what they do. And they train their people, and while they're journeymen, they pay them. They have benefits.
Thank you. All right. Bob?
The stadium, again, I'm a COVID activist, so the stadium was sort of a second tier issue for me, but on the surface, Randy Boyd was one of my customers. I delivered actually to PetSafe, and I didn't find him to be horribly unreasonable as business owners go. So I don't have the necessary fear and animosity that you hear about him a lot of times. That being said, he has to be pushed sometimes to treat his people fairly, which is well and good. As a big picture, I see those players potentially as mentors for that community. I worked with DeAndre up here at Williams Creek, the par 3 golf course, the junior golf course. I see using those players and giving the opportunity for the various playing fields and stuff that this is bringing in as a potential windfall for changing some of the problems in East Knoxville, as far as, what are these kids going to do? Who are the role models going to be? I think we have to get kids into the stadium. I think we have to center this around what it's going to do for the neighborhood. The business aspect, the business guys are going to take care of themselves. What we have to do is focus on getting the kids involved and using it to help get the kids raised up.
Thank you. Tyler?
So I wanted to echo what Debbie said about the CBA and about unions. I was also very disappointed that we did not get a CBA similar to the Nashville Soccer Stadium, and that the union negotiation fell apart, because that is who we should have had constructing that stadium, was local union labor. Absolutely agree there. And I agree with what Bob said, is that Randy Boyd made a lot of promises, and we need to hold him to those promises very publicly. Whether I win or not, I promise you I'll be working on that, because this is a big issue that's close to my heart. And the reason I'm so passionate about the baseball stadium is because it's such a missed opportunity. We had, our leadership failed us. Our leadership had the chance to pump the brakes when the CBA wasn't signed, when the union deal fell apart. They had a chance to demand guaranteed wages for the folks that worked there that Randy Boyd wouldn't agree to sign to. He'd promise it, but he wouldn't sign a piece of paper that made it legally binding. And I think the way we fall into this trap is we see these studies that say if we invest $85 million in a baseball stadium, we'll get $300 million back over 30 years. I believe that was the figures they promised. But they don't tell you what would happen if you invested $85 million in medium-density, mixed-use, commercial, walkable, bikeable spaces with business incubators and other things like that. If we're going to spend $85 million and we've got 200,000 new people that came into the county, do we need to build a baseball stadium to try to get more people to come here? I just think that when we're looking to make a big bond issue, again, the community should be the one that benefits. If the taxpayers are funding it, the taxpayers should be the one to get the benefits, not just hold the debt. So, thank you. I'm getting a feel for it. I can see your elbows.
Thank you. All right, Bob, this is going to be for you.
All right.
Obviously, one of the biggest parts of your job will involve budgeting, and you've all staked out your priorities and your ambitions for this job. So when it comes right down to it, how are you going to manage budget priorities, and how are you going to confront and deal with increasing demands on the county's resources?
Thank you for this question. This is actually one of my big things. What I plan on doing is presenting an honest budget. I've found the MIT studies and the fair wage studies and the adjustments and all this. We can actually put an assigned value, fair market value, to every single job in the county budget. I'm going to start out by having the folks do that. It's the commission's job to tax, to do the rate. I got kind of called out for using the term line item veto, and it's actually adjust and something. Anyway, the budget I present is not, and it's not going to make anybody happy. I don't anticipate being reelected because of that. But what I want to do is get that budget out, and I want to be fair. I don't want anybody, I'm not putting anybody in Sequoia Hills or Fox Den, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bridge under a refrigerator box. You know, dignified work deserves dignified pay. Fair day's work for a fair day's pay is fundamental, and I'm going to have that, and that's the budget I'm going to present to the people and the commission. I'm going to go for accountability. If these guys want to keep paying our deputies $9.84 an hour gross take home before federal taxes, I want everybody to know who's doing what. You're going to see what everybody's worth and what it's cost for my budget.
Thank you. Tyler, budget priorities.
Sure. Thank you. So, budget priorities. All right. The first thing we need to do is look at our current budget and what our priorities have been. So, if you look at our general fund under the current administration, it's increased by about 10%. Our budget for public safety, which is most of the sheriff's department, but includes a few other things, has increased about 13%. Our budget for public health and safety has increased 0%. As a matter of fact, it went down a little bit, and then up a little bit, and then down a little bit again. So the first thing we need to do is look at the money we're already spending, where it's going, make sure we're spending on the right things. Now, I mentioned the sheriff's department and their steep increase, not because I think our deputies need to make less money, but because our sheriff's department spends a lot of money on helicopter fuel and explosives and diesel for heavy armored vehicles. And, you know, you don't need that stuff to patrol around your new baseball stadium. That's a little bit of overkill. $700,000 fleet maintenance bill outstrips the entire budget of the county commission. So I think we need to first look at where we're spending our money, what we're spending it on, what our priorities are, and then we need to have a real open conversation with the community again, with putting people in seats of power as part of this process about what's important to us. And if we're willing to spend a little more money to make sure that our schools are adequately funded, our teachers and support staff are adequately paid, and that our county services are able to do what we're supposed to do and get our federal tax dollars back to us. So if that's important to us, then maybe we have to have a conversation about what our tax rates are. But that's not something the mayor can do on their own. That's something the whole community needs to be involved in, and county commission controls the final vote. Thank you.
Once again, the budgeting, I think you have a lot of waste in budgets everywhere, so I think you don't have to look at it and see where the money's going. Obviously, about 70% of our budget, I think, goes to schools. Is that right?
That's right.
70%. Sheriff's Department and he's so right about the helicopters, because they really exercise around my house every morning about 1 a.m. And I live right across the river at South Woodlawn, so I don't know what that's about. I'm sure they're not chasing anybody, not in my neighborhood anyway. So I just think you have to look at your budget priorities and just assess them accordingly. I don't advocate tax raises. I think you can find the money somewhere else.
Thank you. Because this is a meet and greet format, we're going to have one more question, and then if you did not hear the question you wanted to have asked, you will have an opportunity to meet with the candidates and talk to them and ask them about the particular things that are of concern for you. And so here we go. You've all thought about this job a lot. Obviously, you're putting all your energies into it. And so if you're elected mayor for the next 4 years, what is going to be the biggest challenge you will face? Tyler?
Okay. That's an interesting and challenging question. And to be honest, one of the challenges I might face with a lot of my proposals is pushback from the county commission. So what I'm proposing in my speeches tonight, what I'm saying tonight are bold things, right? Bold things that are going to be difficult to do. They're going to take all of us coming together. And it's going to take all of us coming together for Democrats to win this election too, right? But we have an historic opportunity here. We have a county government that's done a poor job of managing a terrible public health crisis, that's done a poor job of managing our budget, that's done a poor job of a lot of things, and we can just do so much better. And the reason I'm running for mayor is because I believe that's the seat where I can do the most good. That's the chief negotiator, the person who is there to take the various budget requests and balance them together and present something to the county commission. That's not the be all end all of the budget process, but that's an extremely powerful position. And somebody who's knowledgeable in budgeting and contracting and the various programs we can use to get federal money is going to be an asset in that position. And so I think the challenge is going to be selling these changes to the people, selling these changes to the county commission, and I think I'm uniquely qualified to do that. So I would really appreciate you guys' opportunity for me to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Debbie,
Were those difficult things, is that the question?
the biggest
Big
challenge.
challenge.
Biggest challenge. Hopefully it won't be COVID again. That's like a nightmare coming down. So hopefully we're not gonna have a recurrence of all that. I think it's just working with other people and convincing them of what you're trying to do. I spent my life working with people, so from a union perspective, I deal with county managers all the time. So there's common ground everywhere, and I think county commission is an issue because they seem to have aspirations to higher office, all of them. So trying to reel them in might be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm willing to talk to anybody. Governor Lee calls me, I'll talk to him. Absolutely no problem. Not that we probably agree on much, but I would have the conversation. So I just think you have to just talk to people. It's all about relationships.
Thank you. Bob?
There's going to be a multitude of challenges. As I said, the job really hasn't been done in 25 years. There's been a lot of kicking the can down the road. And anytime you come in a situation where the can has been kicked and somebody's got to fix it, and it creates an adverse situation for someone else, you're going to get pushback. Well, that pretty much describes everything in our county government as it relates to the mayor, because again, the mayor's job is to budget and administrate. Getting along with commission for me will be an issue. Watching my mouth and not letting my temper get in the way of something that is obviously against the interests of this community will be an issue. There's a reason I didn't get promoted at UPS, and it wasn't because I was always agreeable in the face of injustice. Quite the opposite. I was told that early on I had too many opinions. Well, that doesn't help you get to the top. It helps once you're at the top, but it doesn't help you get there. And I see the biggest challenge as the relationship in between what I do with a just budget and my relationship with commission.
Well, thank you all very much. We've really appreciated the chance to listen to your answers to our questions. Before we begin the informal part of the program, let me make a few announcements. First of all, thank you. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for letting us do this, right?
Yeah.
We're very grateful to you for being here, and I think everybody here, because of this session, is going to feel more informed as they make their way to the polls in April or May. More on that in a moment. Thank you to David Hearns, Executive Director of Blunt Mansion, for making this happen. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our partners and our volunteers as well. And we do have material from one or two of our partner organizations for you to look at. A few brief announcements. Remember to vote. Something tells me this group is going to get out there and vote. I don't know what it is. Early voting starts April 13th and ends April 28th. Election day is May 3rd. Get out there and vote. We will be sponsoring or partnering on 3 more candidate events. Next week, Knox County Sheriff on Tuesday. We're partnering on County Commission April 5th. And we are putting on a forum for the County Board of Education April 19th. For further information, dates, locations, everything, we have some handouts over here on the table that you can look at. Feel free to take one or take a picture. You'll hear more from us about that. We also have various kinds of league information over there, including early voting, dates and times and sites, and other kinds of voter information, sample ballots, We have some voter registration forms. If anybody here needs to get registered to vote, we do that all day and night. That's our main thing. So anything you need, we're very happy. And if we don't have the answer to your question, we will get it. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you at the next forum, and thank you for attending, and you may disperse and meet and greet.